When we do a review of a board game, I don't use a script. It's just too much trouble. But I thought I would walk you through a very specific approach we take to recording the rules overview, the quick and dirty rules that we use at the beginning of our reviews. The goal here is to make a very short, concise, perfect summary of the rules in maybe 2 to 3, maybe at most 4 minutes. And it's actually quite difficult to remember everything and explain everything in the rules that you want to get across in such a short time. So we use a very specific approach to that, and I'm going to walk you through it now. I start by writing the script for the rules overview explicitly. And I start with a little template here that starts with a one sentence overview of the game. And then I've got a section where I talk about the designer of the game, when it was published, what year, what company, the basic stats of the game, how many players, how long it takes, etc. And then I tend to talk a little bit about the setup, the gameplay, winning and losing. Now I know that I've got one page in my web browser, I'm using Google Docs. One page will take about 3 minutes for me to read, and so that's my length. If it goes longer than a page, I shorten it. So that's the first thing that writing a script does. It lets me get everything I want to say into the rules explanation, and I can cut it down while I'm editing to know that it will fit in time. Once I've got my script here, I open up an audio recorder, and I'm at my desktop with a good high quality microphone, USB microphone. And I'll start recording, reading from the script and recording it. So let's just start, for example. 2021's Marvel United X-Men is a follow-up to the 2020 cooperative superhero game Marvel United. The core rules remain unchanged, but the game adds new superheroes to play and villains to battle. And now I can stop. And I can pause and get ready to record the next section. Now if I start recording the next section and I make a mistake, for example, Marvel United X-Men plays from 1 to 500 players. Whoops, I made a mistake. Now I can just delete this new section I added, come back, re-record it. So the huge benefit of recording the narration of the rule script here is that I know exactly what I want to say. I know how long it's going to take. I can get it as concise and polished and to the point as possible. And then while I'm recording it, if I flub a sentence, I can go back, just delete it, re-record over it. Once I've got everything read and recorded, I can do a couple other things. I can actually go and speed up that whole thing by 5%, 10%, apply some noise filters to it to remove any clicking or mouth sounds. And I can get that audio of the rules as perfect as I can make it very easily and not a wasted second. Once I've got my audio of the rules recorded, and remember we're using a good USB desktop microphone, so the audio quality is better than when I'm doing a review on camera and using an overhead mic. So once I've got my audio recorded, I now set up the game on the table, and I will play the audio that I've just recorded and record from a top-down camera. I'll play the audio out loud in the room so the room will pick it up, and then I'll perform a display of the pieces that I'm talking about in the rules script narration that I read. Let's take a quick look at what that looks like. Okay, now that I've recorded the audio narration for the super concise rules overview script. It's time to go back to the table. We've got the top-down camera recording in 4K. This is where it's important to record in 4K because during the rules I may want to digitally zoom in and pan around. So I've got the table set up to show off the game. I like to start with the box on the table, in the center of the table, on top of some game pieces and the rules. You'll see why in a second. I like to start out like that because I like to make these rules a sort of super fast, quick unboxing video as well so people can see what the rules look like as well as the pieces. Okay, so I've got my rules recorded, tweaked, shortened. Everything is exactly the length I want it to be. And it's queued up to play on the computer. The top-down camera is recorded. Now what I'm going to do now is, normally remember the front camera won't be recording this. I'll have no use for that. I just need the top-down camera to pick up the audio in the room so that I can sync it. So now I'm going to play the rules on my speakers so that the top-down camera can record it for syncing and so that I can hear it. And then I'm going to move stuff around and pantomime the rules explanation as I react to my rule script and demonstrate it to the top-down camera. So let's see what that looks like. 2021's Marvel United X-Men is a follow-up to the 2020 cooperative superhero game Marvel United. The core rules remain unchanged, but the game adds new superheroes to play and villains to battle. Marvel United X-Men plays from 1 to 4 players and typically plays in under an hour. It was published by Simon and was designed by Chiarvesio, Seda, and Lang. It's a cooperative game, but includes several additional modes of play, including a solo mode, where one player controls multiple heroes, and also a new supervillain mode, where one player controls the villain and plays against up to 4 other human players. Setup begins by creating a tableau of 6 random locations, and then choosing a villain to play. 2021's Marvel United X-Men is a follow-up to the 2020 cooperative superhero game Marvel United. The core rules remain unchanged, but the game adds new superheroes to play and villains to battle. Marvel United X-Men plays from 1 to 4 players and typically plays in under an hour. It was published by Simon and was designed by Chiarvesio, Seda, and Lang. It's a cooperative game, but includes several additional modes of play, including a solo mode, where one player controls multiple heroes, and also a new supervillain mode, where one player controls the villain and plays against up to 4 other human players. Setup begins by creating a tableau of 6 random locations, and then choosing a villain to play against and heroes to play as. The core box includes 8 playable heroes and 4 villains. Kickstarter expansions add dozens more of each. Each player takes the hero figure they have chosen and the custom deck of cards associated with that hero. For the chosen villain, players lay out the villain's dashboard, figure, and custom master plan deck, and deal a random threat card from the villain's custom threat deck to each location. The dashboard explains any special rules for the villain, and the master plan deck describes what actions the villain takes on their turn. The threat card at each location represents the obstacles the players will have to overcome before they can engage the villain in battle. At the beginning of the game, the villain's turn will trigger after every 3 player turns, though this will become more frequent as the game goes on. On a villain's turn, a master plan card is drawn, which indicates how the villain moves and attacks. It also specifies where to bring out additional thug and civilian tokens. If the spaces for these tokens are filled at a location, an overflow is triggered and something bad happens, as specified on the villain's dashboard. On a player's turn, they draw 1 card and then play 1 card, performing the actions available on both the card they have played and the card played by the previous player. Actions include moving to an adjacent space, fighting a thug, henchman, or villain at the player's current location, rescuing a civilian from the player's current location, or making progress on a threat card at a player's location. Player cards also frequently have special rules on them that may offer additional actions and options. At the start of the game, players cannot yet battle the villain. They must instead complete 2 of 3 missions, which include rescuing a certain number of civilians, defeating a certain number of thugs, or removing a certain number of threat cards. Removing threat cards has the additional benefit of changing locations from having harmful effects to having positive effects that the players can exploit. Players win if they can defeat the villain. Players lose if they run out of player cards, or if the villain goes through their entire master plan deck, or if the villain has a plot track and reaches the end of it.